Hey, what's up? Thanks so much for joining me today. Big news for Luminar Neo and Skylum with the release of Aperty coming shortly. I'll have videos of both of those. I do have discount links below that will help save you some money, and it will also earn me a small commission so I can continue making more videos about Luminar Neo and Aperty. Neo's going to get some updates on Gen Erase, Gen Swap, Gen Expand. Right now they're already doing a great job, so I can't wait to see what added benefits those are going to have. Like on this image of Lydia, where I used Gen Erase to remove light stands in the background. The wings didn't quite cover the background, and so that expanded. It did a great job. I did add a texture overall. It took out some of the imperfections of Gen Erase, so I can't wait what the new model does. So if you'd like to see more videos on Luminar Neo and Aperty, be sure to subscribe so you're informed when I release those. And if you're looking to upgrade, or if you're new to Neo, welcome. And be sure to use the links below for discounts when purchasing. Or if you're looking at Aperty, if you do lots of portraits and spend a lot of time retouching and you want your life back, Aperty is the program for you. So let's get into this video. I'm going to break it down into two parts. One is going to be a short photography lesson. So if you don't nail your exposures, I think you're really going to like this quick and easy tip for under $10 to get perfect exposure and pretty accurate white balance. Not the best white balance, but good enough for most people. Then we'll hop into Neo and then edit and enhance this image. So here is a shot of an apple cactus. We have these in Phoenix, Arizona. Once I learned that they actually bloom at night, we looked for the buds and then we just waited and checked them out each morning around sunrise. So on this particular day, we had double blooms. So I thought that would be my main focus. Took a few images of that, then went for just a single bloom to see all the insects, the bees, the flies coming in. There's a carpenter bee flying in. Then I realized this could make a really good video about exposure. So I wanted to show how I did that, and we'll go over that. And then I continued with the single frame, but then changed it to a vertical, and that's the one I really enjoy. So I shot that several different ways, small minor tweaks. And the reason for that is you'll see the highlight area here and what I was trying to achieve. I was looking for more of a natural vignette and something that really separated the flower. So here you have a highlight on the very corner, and that kind of competes with the flower. It also leads your eye out of the photograph instead of to the flower. So same here, a little less here. And actually the first shot from that new composition was my favorite, where nice dark edges naturally. And that kind of keeps your attention right there into the flower. There was a bee and some sort of other insect there. And that one looked really good. So that's the one we're going to enhance. So I'm going to right click on that. Adjustments will revert to the original. This was shot on the Nikon D7500, kind of an older camera. So it is sunrise. So I'm at ISO 1600, 5.6 is the maximum opening for this lens, and shutter speed 1/400. Handheld, it's a 300 millimeter lens, so there is definitely a possibility of some little handheld camera shake. So let's take a look at how I would normally edit. If I'm not real sure with what I want to do, so I would hop into presets on the very top for this photo, it's going to recommend some presets, and then you'll have access to all the other presets that you own or that are in the marketplace. So I would take a quick look at what they recommend. Sometimes they do a great job. Maybe this bee has its own YouTube channel and isn't an influencer, so that might be good, but we'll go with nature. So it's going to apply all those presets as a preview so you can kind of look through. And sometimes you get lucky and find something that you really like. Others may be too vivid that you could tweak afterwards. Or if you click on it, you can adjust the amount. So right there, that's looking pretty nice. But it's not my vision that I have for this image. I'm looking for something that has more of a glow in the background. Maybe something that we see a little bit more detail in the flower area. So your attention is really drawn into the flower. So let's reset that. Let's take it into edit. Let's take a look at the image. And look at things that we like and things that we want to improve. So focus is fine, but we could possibly sharpen this area up a little bit, add a little bit of detail. There is noise in the image. We could go to noiseless, but I actually like the noise in this image. So I am going to leave that. I said I did want to kind of glow the background a bit, maybe mute it a bit. So again, the flower stands out. So let's get into it by going first to develop. It is a raw image, so we see the develop raw. First thing I always do is always start with camera profile and pick the best one based on the raw file image. So I would just kind of scroll through. So camera landscape is really nice. If I was looking for a quick edit, I would select camera landscape and call it a day. But that would make for a very short YouTube video. So let's select camera standard because it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. There's a nice separation. Portrait is nice, but the flower pops a little bit more with the contrast of camera standard. So I would select that. And right off the bat, it looks really nice. Exposure is good and color is good. So I'm not going to have to spend any time under light or color because the balance was perfect as it was taken. So before we move on, let's figure out how I got that perfect exposure. So we'll go back to the catalog. Here's a pro technique for accurate exposures and relatively good color balance, all for under $10. And it's very easy to use. It's using an 18% gray card that you just plop down, set in the scene that you're photographing. And once you set it down, you just want to scoot real close and fill the frame with the card. And that is where you're going to do two things. You're going to use it to set a custom white balance. So however your camera does it, I'm planning more videos on actual photography. And one of those videos will be teaching about setting white balances. But for now, most cameras, Sony, Nikon, Canon, all allow you to set custom white balances. So use the reference for the white balance. It's going to give you a fairly accurate white balance. There are better tools that I use, like my Expo disc or my Weibel cards, but this works very well. And if you're not doing higher end custom white balances, this is just a great way to start. Again, under $10, you can pick this up at Amazon and it achieves two things. Custom white balance, that's what you want to do first. then you want to fill the frame, and this is where you're going to get your perfect exposure, because your camera meter is going to trick you based on what's in front of the lens. So if it's something relatively dark, it's going to overexpose the image, and if it's a bright scene, a sandy beach, a snowy ski slope, a portrait of a polar bear, all those are going to trick your exposure. But by filling the frame with the 18% gray card, that is what your camera meter is trying to make everything look like. So you're playing on its terms. You're giving it what it wants to see, and it's going to give you perfect exposure. So you set that exposure down in manual mode, set the ISO, set the aperture, set the shutter speed, lock down your exposure, and you only have to do this again if the lighting conditions change. So here was sunrise. This is facing north. The light was coming in from the east, and that's what's giving us this beautiful cross light type of lighting. It's a beautiful light to highlight detail and shape and texture. So that's the easy way to get perfect exposures and really good color balance. And I mean by really good, it's going to be so much better than just setting your camera on auto white balance. It's not the perfect color balance. There are more expensive tools for that, but just to get started, this is going to get you so close. And even though I have those more expensive tools, I do still use this technique. This reflector folds up so small so it doesn't take up any space, and it's quick and easy to pop out, set in a scene, get your white balance, get your exposure, and you're off making great photographs. So let's get back to the edit. Now that you know how it was exposed and why the color balance looks great, we'll go back into edit. And the only thing that we have applied is our camera profile. We could adjust that by going into edits and still change it to one of the other profiles, but we're going to keep it at camera standard. Go back to tools, and let's enhance this image. First thing we're going to do is go into Mystical, and that's in the creative section. And Mystical gives a beautiful glow. So we can see what it's doing, but it also removes a lot of detail as well. So I like what it's doing to the background and to the cactus here, but I'm not happy with what it's doing to the flower. But that's not a problem. We can go into masking. We'll do object select and use Luminar's AI masking capabilities, and I'm going to click on it. Right now it's just going to apply the mystical glow to the flower. We want the opposite. So I'm going to click on object select, the arrow, and we can see that. We'll go into mask actions and just hit invert. And now mystical is being applied to everything but the flower. So if we hit show, you can see that. Perfect. So now that I'm happy, I'm just going to click on mystical to close that up, and everything's looking great. We could be finished right here, but I want to see if we can kind of sharpen this area here. The lens I used was just a kit lens for that camera, so it's not optically the best lens, but I think we can help it out. In the past, I would use details, and you can find details under the essentials, then detail. And detail is dynamic contrast, and you can add small details, large details, medium details, and right there that helps quite a bit. And that's looking really nice, but if we kind of zoom in especially when you do small details, it accentuates the grain structure as well. While I don't mind the grain, I don't think I really want to enhance the grain. So let's look at a new technique that I've started using for some of my images. I'm going to reset this tool, close out of it, and instead of details, we're going to use Super Sharp. Super Sharp AI is really made to improve blur caused by movement, missed focus, shaky camera, things like that. And that could have been a small part of it. There could have definitely been movement on that bee, but I find it also just helps lots of different types of images. You have two different settings, universal motion blur. I'm not going to pretend I know what each of them do. I do a lot of just trial by error. To me, that's a great way to learn. I'm going to do middle. I would probably do low just for my image, but on YouTube a lot of times it doesn't really show the changes that well. So I'm going to make it a little bit stronger, and actually that looks great. So now it has improved the image quite a bit, especially the flower, the insects, all the stems. Everything's looking really nice. And we could call it good here. But let's take an overall look. And if we look at the cactus below the needles, it is changing some of those a little bit. And I actually like this softer cactus as opposed to the sharpened cactus. So we're going to do the same thing as before. So we're just going to apply it to the flower area. We could use the same process as before using the Object Select AI. We know that picked out the flower super quick. Just to show a different method, you could just use old school and paint in. So click on paint, softness, and brush size. And again, we don't have to be perfect for things like this. And just apply it here. So now if we look at a before and after, it is just sharpening the flower and the bee, but it's not affecting the lower part of the cactus or the background. So we'll click on Super Sharp to close up that panel and take one final look. Normally I would add vignettes to my images, but remember we have a natural vignette going on this image. So I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. And there's only one thing that really bothers me on this flower, and that's this little area here. So let's go into Erase under the Essential Tools. I'm going to make my brush size super small with the bracket keys. We're on Select. So I'm going to start inside and go across. I find that gives me the best results, and then we'll hit Erase. And it did a perfect job. And we'll close out of that. And there is our image. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I do respond to them and enjoy your feedback. If you're looking for Luminar Neo or Apperty, be sure to use the links below. You'll save money and I'll receive a small commission. It's a win-win situation, and it does help me make more videos. Again, thanks for joining me, and until next time, keep shooting.